we're going to start off relaxed, as we do with this. So we're going to begin in Shavasana. So begin probably as we will end as well. So make yourself really comfortable. You can lie obviously on your back, or if you prefer to take a sideline Shavasana, which is a nice option, regardless of if you're pregnant or not. And you just need to take your bolster and you'll just bring it between your legs. You might want a pillow underneath your head, and if it feels comfortable for you to support your head with an arm, or if you've got the pillow, you can bring that under and just relaxing into that. Or if you prefer to, coming onto your back into normal Shavasana and just relaxing with something underneath the knees, just to allow the lower back to release. And if you have got an eye pillow, that is a really, really nice way just to relax the eyes and to begin this process of slowing down into winter. So when you get there, just settling yourself in and adjusting anything that doesn't quite feel right. So restorative yoga is very much like the Princess and the Pea. If something feels a bit uncomfortable at the start, it's going to continue to feel uncomfortable in all likelihood. So it's best just to adjust what doesn't feel quite right, and then just find that comfortable spot where you can completely relax. And taking a big breath in through the nose, and exhaling out through the mouth. Releasing everything with the exhale. And breathing in through the nose. And consciously relaxing the feet and the legs on the exhale. Again, taking a breath in through the nose. And then on the exhale, relaxing the hips. And relaxing the abdomen, the lower back. On the exhale, taking another breath in, relaxing the arms and the hands. On the exhale, taking a breath in and relaxing the shoulders on the exhale. Taking a breath in. And then relaxing the face on the exhale. Feeling yourself completely supported by your mat beneath you. So we find ourselves at this transition point of autumn as we go into winter. And it seems quite fitting tonight that we're starting to slow down into winter, as I've had the first flurry of snow today, and I know that a lot of the country has. And winter is all about this need to be really aware, even more aware than the rest of the year, of slowing down, of giving yourself space, and just honouring the season. The days are shorter, it's colder. We don't hibernate as a species, but actually in many ways, the kind of concept of hibernation is a good one for us to think of. So going to bed earlier, taking care of ourselves, making sure we eat well. And all of these things can help us as we move into the winter months. And the start of winter is characterized in the Ayurvedic tradition as being very dry. And so we have to make sure that we eat things like stews and soups, all those kind of nourishing things that really help us through this first part of the season. So tonight is all about making that space, finding those comfortable positions that allow us to release and allow us to support our bodies and put them in the best possible position to survive the onslaught of the winter and the cold and and all the things like the germs that brings with us. So I'll be doing lots of readings throughout, just to kind of begin getting us into that winter space in terms of the body, but also in terms of the mind. So winter is a withdrawal, quiet and dark and cold. But in the dim light, frost shimmers, stars twinkle, and hearts blaze as we come together to keep out the chill. In spite of the season, life persists. Visiting birds fill our skies. Familiar creatures find clever ways to survive, and the world reveals winter riches to those willing to venture outdoors. So just settling into the breath, establishing that steady rhythm. And perhaps if it helps, bringing your hands onto the abdomen to connect with the breath, to feel that physical connection with the movement of your abdomen as you breathe in and out with the exhale and with the inhale. And when we begin to slow down, our minds can suddenly become very busy. So if you find your mind wandering, just bringing it back to the breath, using the breath to steady the mind, to bring you back to the body, to bring you back to your mat. So feel everything slowing down, the pulse slowing, the breathing slowing. And accepting that this will be a period of transition. This first pose is the one where we adjust to the settling, we adjust to the stillness. Taking a final few moments here before we begin to come into our poses. So the breath, seeing if there is any noticeable difference between when you first lay down and where you are now. We've only been here around 10 minutes. And it shows how even if you just lie down for 10 minutes and focus on your breathing, you can bring yourself into this slower and stiller space. And the time ahead of us can be quite a busy one as we move towards Christmas, but just 10 minutes of slowing down can have a very beneficial effect on the body. Slowing down the breath, slowing down the pulse. Taking a deep breath into the body. And then exhale, letting it go. And then if you are lying on your back, you're going to bring yourself over onto one of your sides. It doesn't really matter which side you start with, because we'll do both sides. So if you're not already lying on your side, and you're going to come into that position, taking your bolster between your legs to just provide a comfortable support. And if you've got a pillow or a block to place under your head, just doing that to support the neck, just making sure there's a little bit of a space underneath. And then you want to bring whichever your bottom arm is straight out away from you along the mat. And I'm just going to do a nice side stretcher, taking the top arm up above the head, over onto the pillow above you. And then just slightly turning the body so that you're really opening up that top side to the ceiling. And just adjusting anything to make that feel comfortable. And again, taking a breath in through the nose and exhaling to release. And exhaling to relax into your position. You might just need to play around with the position of your top arm and the foot to make sure that that feels comfortable. You're just playing with that, making sure that you can relax that top shoulder, that you can relax along the top side of the body. And what we're trying to do is really release all of those little muscles in between the ribs, all of those little bits that can start to feel quite compacted. Adjusting anything that doesn't feel comfortable. Two days short of the winter solstice, the turn of the year's tide. All that cold day, the city and the countryside around felt halted, paused. 5 degrees below freezing, and the earth battened down. Clouds held snow that would not fall. Out in the suburbs, the schools were closed, people homebound, the pavements rinky, and the roads black iced. The sun ran a shallow arc across the sky. Then just before dusk, the snow came, dropping straight for 5 hours and settling at a steady inch an hour. I was at my desk that evening, trying to work, but distracted by the weather. I kept stopping, standing, looking out of the window. The snow was sinking through the orange cone cast by a streetlight, the fat flakes showing like furnace sparks. Around 8 o'clock, the snow ceased. An hour later, I went for a walk with a flask of whiskey to keep me warm. I walked for half a mile along dark back roads where the snow lay clean and unmarked. The houses began to thin out. A few undrawn curtains, family evenings underway, the flicker and burble of television sets, the cold like a wire in the nose, a slew of stars, the moon flooding everything with silver. At the southerly fringe of the suburb, a last lamppost stands by a hawthorn hedge, and next to it is a hole in the hedge, which leads down to a modest field path. So anytime you find the mind wandering, just bringing it back to the breath. Bringing it back to the movement of the rising and the falling of the abdomen. Just coming back to the breath every time you feel the mind wandering. And doing a final few moments here. And taking a breath in, taking a breath out. And from here, we're going to come on to the opposite side. So very, very slowly taking yourself from one side onto the other. And setting up the same on the opposite side. So support between the legs, support for the head, and then sweeping the arm up over the head. And just adjusting anything so that it feels completely comfortable. And if it helps, it might feel comfortable to take something underneath the hand above the head, if that slightly raises it. Or it might feel okay just resting on your head. Again, just using the exhale to relax the body into the mat. Feeling the stretching of all of those little muscles down the side as you breathe in and as you breathe out. I followed the field path east-southeast towards a long chalk hilltop, visible as a whaleback in the darkness. Northwards was the glow of the city and the red blip of aircraft warning lights from towers and cranes. Dry snow squeaked underfoot. A fox crossed the field to my west at a trot. The moonlight was so bright that everything cast a crisp moon shadow, black on white, stark as woodcut. Wands of dogwood made of zebra hide of the path, hawthorn through a lattice. The trees were filled with snow, which lay to the depth of an inch or more on branches and twigs. The snow caused everything to exceed itself, and the moonlight caused everything to double itself. This is the path I've probably walked more often than any other in my life. It's a young way, maybe 50 years old, no more. Its easterly hedge is mostly hawthorn and around 8 feet high. Its westerly hedge is a younger mix of blackthorn, hawthorn, hazel, and dogwood. It is not normally a beautiful place, but there's a feeling of secrecy to it that I appreciate, hedged as it is on both sides, and running discreetly as it does between field and road. This evening the path was a grey snow alley, and I followed it up to the hanger of beech trees that tops the whaleback hill, passing off the clay and onto the chalk proper. At the back brink of the beechwood, I ducked through an ivy-trailed gap and was into the 40-acre field that lies beyond. At first sight, the field seemed flawless, flow country. Then I set out across it and started to see the signs. The snow was densely printed with the tracks of birds and animals, archives of the hundreds of journeys made since the snow had stopped. There were neat deer slots, partridge prints like arrowheads pointing the way, and the pads of rabbits. Lines of tracks curved away from me across the field, disappearing into shadow or hedge. The moonlight falling at a slant deepened the dark in the nearer tracks so that they appeared full as inkwells. To all these marks, I added my own. Just coming back to the breath anytime the mind wanders. Following the rise and fall of the abdomen. And just taking a final few moments here. Taking a deep breath in. And on the exhale, letting it go. And drawing the top arm back down to the side of the body. And very, very slowly, you're going to bring yourself up to sit. So moving steadily, not rushing anything. Lying for about 25 minutes now, so make it a very smooth transition. We're going to do some more seated poses now. So winter kind of makes us feel like we want to lie and kind of hibernate under blankets, but we're going to do a few sort of more upright poses to get the energy moving a little bit. So the first pose we're going to come into in our seated position is a single-legged forward fold. So you're going to need a few different props for it. So you're going to start off with the right leg. So taking the right leg out in front of you, and then you're going to bring the left leg sort of up into not quite a right angle. If you know what tree pose is in yoga, you're kind of doing it in tree pose. So the knees bent, and then you drop it out to the side with the foot tucked to the inside of the right leg. Now you're just going to tuck something underneath that knee to support it. So underneath the left knee. It can be a cushion, can be a block, just something to support it. And you might want to tuck something underneath the bottom, like a cushion, or maybe even just the edge of a blanket, so that your pelvis is slightly tipped, I think the word was then. And then you're going to make for yourself either, if you've got blocks, you can make yourself a little stand. I'll use my block, that's a different side. So if you've got a bolster, this will work. If not, I'll show you another way to do it. So you're going to create yourself like a little stand that you're going to come down onto and rest. If you're using pillows, that's slightly harder to do because the bolsters are a little bit more rigid. You can make yourself just a little pile on top of your legs. And what you're looking to do is just to have something to rest on. And it might be that you bring your head down onto it, if that feels okay, on the back of the neck. Or what some people can find it quite nice to do is to have the elbows on your support and then just bring your head into your hands. So just a kind of real closing down. So just finding what feels comfortable for you. If it doesn't feel comfortable, just adjust it. Perhaps bring more support underneath. Tuck some more things onto your support if it feels nicer just to drop the head down. So just making any changes that are needed that something doesn't feel right. And taking that breath in and then exhaling to really allow it to settle into your support. And your support is here to allow you to release the body and to relax it. It's going to be a very snow-themed class tonight. Lots of snow readings. And winter's not all about snow, but it is the beautiful part of it. 1,000 words for snow. When the ice begins to mist the silicon, the coal, the cuticle, the uniform, and your skin's a skittish foal. When the tongue melts the thistle in the berry's mouth like hail, and the fractal folds its kisses into a locket's lost portrait. When the water flecks its hustle with mock and pulse and hiss, and you mix oak apple cider with amnesia's chrysalis. When every stutter is a plaything, predictable as the shape that frost takes on a window or of a heart's beat as it breaks. Then look up from the static scroll of winter's radio. White noise doesn't matter. You're at the station, so you go. A scarf of thorns untangled, a caddis shell of gold, a swarm of wings, childish things, 1,000 words for snow. Just bringing yourself back to the breath every time you find your mind drifting. Using the steadiness of the inhale and the exhale to find the stillness. Stillness within the movement. The body's always moving, even when we seem physically still. Still constant of the heart beating, the breath in and out of the body. Finding the breath slowing down. taking the final few moments here before we switch to the opposite side. Taking a breath in and exhaling it out. And bringing yourself up from your support. And then for a moment, stretching both legs out. And just taking the arms behind you. And just pressing the chest up. Looking up, stretching the front of the body. And then coming on to the opposite side. So taking the left leg out. And then bending the right leg out to the side. Taking that support underneath. Taking the support underneath the right knee. And then whatever you did with your bolster or with your cushions on the opposite side, just coming into that same position on this side. Maybe finding that it's a little bit tighter, so you might need a bit more or perhaps a bit less. And then when you're ready, coming to settle into your position. And relaxing into the support beneath you. Taking a big breath in and exhaling it out. Around the house, the flakes fly faster, and all the berries now are gone from holly and cotton Easter around the house. The flakes fly faster, shutting indoors that crumb outcaster we used to see upon the lawn around the house. The flakes fly faster, and all the berries now are gone. Coming back to the breath, anytime you find the mind drifting. Move back to the breath anytime the mind wanders. Feeling that steady rhythm. And the inhale and the exhale. In a moment, preparing to move. Taking a deep breath in. And exhaling it out. And pressing yourself very slowly up from your support. And again, just stretching the legs out, taking the hands behind the back. And just pressing the chest open, looking up. And releasing down. So our next pose is quite a similar pose, but we're going to stretch something slightly different. So if you are practicing on a reasonably hard floor, you might find you just want to turn yourselves around, or if you've got a comfortable floor underneath you, you probably don't need to. So we're going to take the right leg out to the side, so it's a slightly wider angle, just coming into a wide-legged position. You might find you want to take something underneath the right knee, particularly if you've got quite a lot of tightness in the hamstrings. And then the left leg is going to be folded in with the heel in towards the groin. And I'll give you two different options depending on what you'd prefer to stretch. So you can either take the bolster or your pillows in front of you and come down into a similar position with the previous pose, but you're going to get a slightly different kind of release in the legs. Or you can take your pillow and your bolster onto your leg, and instead you're going to stretch into the side of the body. So it's quite a nice stretch, particularly, and the sides are really areas of the body that are nice to open up at this time of year. So it might be that you can just bring the head onto the hands. You might find that you've got enough space to lie the head down. And you can either just keep the left hand resting on the hand, or if it feels okay, you can perhaps take it over the head, but that can sometimes not feel particularly comfortable. So sometimes it's nicer just to bring it down onto the leg. And then just taking a breath in and taking a breath out. And relaxing both at the feet. And just settling into your pose. So only taking the hand and the left hand over the head if that feels comfortable. It might feel more comfortable to keep it down by the side. And taking that breath in, taking the breath out. There is one aspect to the gradual close of autumn and the onset of winter, of which the rambler should not lose sight. The feeling that is pretty general among people of the average sort is that the country at this season is a place to be avoided, empty, dull, without any interest. All the pretty things like flowers and butterflies have disappeared. The birds are silent. The trees are bare poles and the woods are damp and gloomy. This is the accepted notion. But whenever you have the chance for a ramble on a fine day, go forth and prove to yourself how absurd it all is. Some of the details of the whale are true, of course, but the general charge is false. We must not expect to find snowdrops in October or blackberries in spring. Everything has its season for display, and we cannot learn the story of the year if we read only 8 or 9 of its 12 chapters. Most of the trees have lost their leaves, and because of this we are able to learn something more precise about their trunks, branches and buds. Every kind of tree has its own form of trunk, with a special pattern into which its expanding bark splits in order to allow growth of the woody tissues it protects. Each kind has its own manner of branching, and the branch of an oak will be found to differ from that of a beech, as much as the rough bark of one is unlike the smooth coat of the other. So too with the shoot and leaf buds of each. They have distinctive forms and start at different angles from the boughs and the twigs, which affects the plan upon which next year's leaves shall be arranged. Compare the short, thick buds of oak and elm with the long pointed ones of beech and birch. Trees that are the first to put their simple flowers in the early months of the year, such as alder, birch and hazel, have formed their catkins in readiness, though these are as yet small and hard. If you are curious to know what happens to the vast number of fallen leaves that rustle under your feet and form a thick carpet in the wood, turn up a few with your stick. Where they are dry and loose, you will find that some are covering small insects and snails that have adopted them as bedspreads to keep off the frost. More in the open and in slight hollows, they have become matted together with moisture, and between these you will find worms and snails feeding upon them and reducing them to skeletons, the firmer ribs and nerves being left. Some are covered with a delicate white tracery of fine fungus threads. These are also doing their best to break up the ripe leaves that have finished their work in that form and are now to be added to the soil to furnish food for other plants. Some again show that one or other of the mixies have taken possession, and though these may be in the early creamy condition, by taking away a wad of the sodden leaves containing them and keeping them moist, you may be able to see the development to the fruiting stage. Just bringing the mind back to the breath, if you find it wandering. We're taking a final few moments here before we switch to the opposite side. Taking a big breath in and exhaling it and letting it go. Peeling yourself up from your support. And then switching on to the opposite side, having the setup exactly the same. And taking the opposite leg out, placing something underneath the leg if that feels helpful. And then taking the choice either to bring the bolster in front, or if you did, whichever you took on the opposite side, and bringing it down onto the leg. And then just settling into the support in exactly the same way as you did on the opposite side. So keeping everything the same. but adjusting anything that doesn't feel completely comfortable. So taking more or less support away. And just exhaling into your support. And particularly trying to relax the bent leg. Releasing any gripping that you may be doing. And particularly releasing anything in the sides, the open side of the body. Again, just relaxing all of those little muscles between the ribs. Relaxing the glute muscles down the side of the abdomen and into the back. Relaxing all the muscles around the hip. A late November Saturday, and at last there's a lull in the wind and the rain. Missing the badger activity of the warmer months, I decide to take my chance. As I set out, a half moon is high over the woods, diamond bright and shaped like a D. It is my only companion in the darkness. The dog would disturb the wildlife. The children are staying home in the warm. And though my husband prefers to come with me, tonight he's out. Besides, it's only 4:30. It has none of the feeling of risk of a solitary night walk in summer when darkness falls late. The thought of walking city streets at nightfall makes me far more anxious. These woods are home to me and I know them well. I switch on my torch for the wooded footpath that leads away from the village. A new crisp layer of leaves has fallen today on the sodden layer of mulch. The trees above are all but bare now, except for the ivy that has scrambled to the highest boughs and the mistletoe balls that perch on some lone branches like nests woven by an obsessive homemaking bird that doesn't know when to stop. This must be in a particularly exposed patch, as further in the trees still offer some shelter. The path winds its way through the thicket, and a startled blackbird rattles a course in front of me, warning anything around that I'm coming. Stepping over a low wire fence, I can hear young badgers cackling and squeaking, presumably at play. I still think of them as cubs, though they will be close in size to the adults now. It's difficult to make a silent approach, but the romping noises haven't stopped. Perhaps they are running for cover. My pace is slow and tentative as I follow the path along the side of the field. I have a night vision device with me, a small handheld monocle that allows me to see the badgers when it's dark enough. I stop beside the sept and adjust the focus, looking for a stretch of woodland floor that's visible, but the summer nettles are still ankle deep. Sometimes natural vision is best, and I glance up into the trees. A cool white light graces the branches, ghostly beckoning arms that now seem to reach out further across the field. The near absence of leaves elongates them too, a change that has come about in a matter of days. A tawny owl thinks it's night already, calling with that prolonged, enveloping utterance. It somehow includes me, if only by reminding me that I'm a guest here, that no matter how familiar this place seems, it's not my own. There is something otherworldly about it that warms me and carries with it a sense of hallowed ground. Coming back to the breath any time you find the mind drifting. And taking a final few moments here. And taking an inhale in. And releasing exhale out. Bringing yourself up from your supports. Moving slowly and gradually. And then we're going to start to, I say start to slow down, we're already very slow, but we're going to start to come into some of the more deeply restorative poses. So some of the seated ones are sort of designed to get the energy flowing a little bit more as restorative poses go. But the next one we're going to come into is our child's pose. So you want to create yourself a slope. So a pile of books or blocks or cushions, whatever that you're using. And then we're going to place, kind of make our slope of cushions. So if it is, I'll speak again. If it's cushions that you are using, then you might need to just create a little bit of a graduated slope down, just to make this feel, kind of make it feel supported. If you have got a little bit more at the front that you're needing to accommodate, then you'll just need to come back a little bit further, and you might find that you just want to sit yourself on a cushion as well, just to make space for that. And you're going to, if you have got an eye pillow, it's quite nice in this pose just to place it onto the back of the neck. So if you put it up towards the top of your bolster, then you can reach it. And if you are finding that you're starting to cool down, if you've got blankets to hand, this is a really, really nice pose to start thinking about bringing your blankets out. So kind of wrapping them around you. You're going to take the knees, just move my blanket for a moment, I'm not sure that's so just taking the knees wide. So if you're not accommodating more in the abdomen, then you can bring yourself to sit right up against your cushion. Inhale in and then bring yourself down. If you are allowing a little bit more space, then just shuffling yourself back a little bit, so that your abdomen is kind of off, and you may just need to take the knees a little bit wider, just so that you have got space there. And like I said, maybe just sitting up a little bit, just so that you're lifting yourself out of that, and there's not any pressure on the abdomen here. So the most comfortable way to take the head, for most people, is to take the head off to the side. There are a few people I've come across who feel comfortable having their face pressed into a bolster or a cushion. But if you are like most, then it's more comfortable to have the head to the side. Then I'll just let you know at the halfway point, and you can turn the head to the opposite side. And just adjusting anything that doesn't feel right, that doesn't feel comfortable. And releasing the breath out. Releasing any tension in the body. At this point, often that's beginning to go. Just kind of think that maybe the change of position makes you aware that you're still gripping, still holding on to. Frost at midnight. The frost performs its secret ministry, unhelped by any wind. The owlet's cry came loud, and hark again, loud as before. The inmates of my cottage, all at rest, have left me to that solitude which suits obtrusive musings. save that at my side my cradle infant slumbers peacefully. 'Tis calm indeed, so calm that it disturbs and vexes meditation with its strange and extreme silentness. Sea, hill, and wood, this populous village, sea and hill and wood, with all the numberless goings on of life, inaudible as dreams. The thin blue flame lies on my low burnt fire and quivers not. Only that film which fluttered on the grate still flutters there, the sole unquiet thing. Methinks its motion in this hush of nature gives it dim sympathies with me who live, making it a companionable form, whose puny flaps and freaks the idling spirit by its own moods interpret, everywhere echo or mirror seeking of itself, and makes a toy of thought. But oh, how oft at school with most believing mind, presageful I have gazed upon the bars to watch that fluttering stranger. And as oft with unclosed lids already had I dreamed of my sweet birthplace, and the old church tower whose bells, the poor man's only music, rang from morn to eve, all the hot, fair day, so sweetly that they stirred and haunted me with a wild pleasure falling on mine ear, most like articulate sound of things to come. So gazed I till the soothing things I dreamt lulled me to sleep, and sleep prolonged my dreams. And so I brooded all the following morn, awed by the stern preceptor's face, mine eye fixed with mock study on my swimming book, save if the door half opened, and I snatched a hasty glance, and still my heart leapt up. For still I hoped to see the stranger's face, townsman or aunt or sister more beloved, my playmate when we were both clothed alike. Therefore all seasons shall be sweet to thee, whether the summer clothe the general earth with greenness, or the redbreast sit and sing betwixt the tufts of snow on the bare branch of mossy apple tree, while the nigh thatch smokes in the sun-thaw, whether the eve drops fall heard only in the trances of the blast, or if the secret ministry of frost shall hang them up in silent icicles, quietly shining to the quiet moon. And coming back to the breath every time the mind drifts. And coming back to the breath every time the mind wanders, every time the mind drifts away. Observing the rise and fall of the abdomen as you breathe in and out. So switching the head onto the opposite side now. Coming back to the breath anytime the mind breaths. And taking the final few moments in this pose. And taking a deep breath in. Exhale, letting it go. And beginning to prepare yourself to move. So supporting yourself with your hands. And peeling yourself away from your support beneath you. Bringing yourself back up. And from here, we're going to keep the same position of our bolsters and our support, but turning ourselves round so that the base of the spine is into the bolster. And then again, as with the previous pose, you probably will want to bring a blanket over you just to keep you warm. And you may want your eye pillow. And then with the legs, you can do a few different things. So if it feels okay in the inner thighs, you can just bring the feet together and allow the knees to fall out, but probably placing some kind of support underneath the knees. You could also stretch the legs straight out, or you could place something underneath them just to allow that to them to be supported. And then when you're ready to come back, again, you might just want something underneath the head as a pillow. You're just going to roll yourself back down, and taking that support underneath the head if you want to, placing an eye pillow over your eyes if that feels comfortable, and just bringing a blanket over the top of you, and just settling into your pose. Again, adjusting anything that doesn't feel quite right. making it feel really comfortable, really nurturing, and then just allowing yourself to take that rest. So this pose in particular is a really nourishing one as a woman because it opens up the front of the body, and it's really good to regulate the hormones. It's a particularly good one in pregnancy for supporting that. I'm Australian and this is my 14th English summer. I'm watching the blackbird hen in my Cambridge garden feed a late fledgling, a damp, speckled handful with black wings mismatched to the rest of him like a kid in a Dracula costume. Everything is wet and warm and draggily and sticky, muted compared to the bright white, scorching Decembers of the Antipodean summer. I am no less hot for all that. Contrary like Mary, I long for the crispness of an English winter. One December morning many years ago, when I was new to England and my sense of it still lived mostly in the pages of books, I found a badger paw in a beechwood on Nor Hill, the chalk hill a mile south of Gilbert's white Selborne. In the summer it is all silver-washed fritillaries and wild orchids. That day its flowers were frost. It was the first hard frost I'd ever seen. Splinter crunch underfoot, everything frozen together in shifting plates of leaf litter, and last season's squirrel-gnawed beech mast, the sleepy woodlouse accidentally unearthed. Everything greyed and glittered, blur-edged with ice fur, but up close. Miniature icicle stick people climbing on each other's shoulders to investigate the frontier. Feathers made of ice shards, nettle leaves brought high and mighty with each vein picked out. Frozen needles rank and file. I long to touch the frost points, to prick myself Sleeping Beauty style on the tiny frozen spindles. My hands are hot out of my glove, and I try over and over, gently, gently. But no, it feels like nothing, like cold water leaping away from my touch, like the star you see in your side eye. It is magical in a way that winter is supposed to be, glistening and sugary and otherworldly, transformed and still, a smack of end of the universe, absolute zero, in the splinters of ice that won't last the morning. Magical in the way of a story told and retold. Herne the hunter stalking abroad, rich red the right colour, mould the right flavour, the corners of your mind furnished with wool and fur, field fairs and the smell of wood smoke. Folklore rises like steam out of the leaf litter. Coming back to the breath, if you find the mind wandering away, the lines and form of the abdomen, as you breathe in and out. So taking the final few moments here. Taking a breath into the body and exhaling it out. You've got the option now for one final last pose if you wish, or you can remain in the pose you're in now. But your option, if you wish to take it, is just to take a slight inversion with the legs. So that is to come into legs at the wall, or most likely legs at the sofa. And if lying flat on your back is not an option, then your option can be to stay in the elevated position that you're in and just slightly raise the legs up, or remain in this position if it's comfortable for you. If you are taking the legs up the wall or legs up the sofa, just lying the upper body flat on the ground with cushion underneath the head and taking the legs up onto your support, whether that is the sofa or the wall. And you might want to wrap a blanket over it. Or if you prefer to stay in the position that you're in now, feel free to do that if that feels more comfortable for you. And settling into the final position before we come into our yoga nidra. Taking a breath in, and on the exhale, Releasing everything into your support. Christmas was coming. One morning in mid-December, Hogwarts woke to find itself covered in several feet of snow. The lake froze solid, and the Weasley twins were punished for bewitching several snowballs so that they followed Quirrell around, bouncing off the back of his turban. The few owls that managed to battle their way through the stormy sky to deliver mail had to be nursed back to health by Hagrid before they could fly off again. No one could wait for the holidays to start. While the Gryffindor common room and the Great Hall had roaring fires, the draughty corridors had become icy, and a bitter wind rattled the windows in the classrooms. Worst of all were Professor Snape's classes down in the dungeons, where their breath rose in a mist before them, and they kept as close as possible to their hot cauldrons. I do feel so sorry, said Draco Malfoy, one potions class, for all those people who have to stay at Hogwarts for Christmas because they're not wanted at home. He was looking over at Harry as he spoke. Crabbe and Goyle chuckled. Harry, who was measuring out powdered spine of lionfish, ignored them. Malfoy had been even more unpleasant than usual since the Quidditch match. Disgusted that the Slytherins had lost, he tried to get everyone laughing at how a wide-mouthed tree frog would be replacing Harry as Seeker next. Then he'd realised that nobody found this funny, because they were all so impressed at the way Harry had managed to stay on his bucking broomstick. So Malfoy, jealous and angry, had gone back to taunting Harry about having no proper family. It was true that Harry wasn't going back to Privet Drive for Christmas. Professor McGonagall had come around the week before, making a list of students who would be staying for the holidays, and Harry had signed himself up at once. He didn't feel sorry for himself at all. This would probably be the best Christmas he'd ever had. Ron and his brothers were staying too, because Mr. and Mrs. Weasley were going to Romania to visit Charlie. When they left the dungeons at the end of potions, they found a large fir tree blocking the corridor ahead. Two enormous feet sticking out at the bottom, and a loud puffing sound told them that Hagrid was behind it. Hi, Hagrid, want any help? Ron asked, sticking his head through the branches. Nah, I'm all right, thanks, Ron. Would you mind moving out of the way? Came Malfoy's cold drawl from behind them. Are you trying to earn some extra money, Weasley? Hoping to be a gamekeeper yourself when you leave Hogwarts, I suppose. Coming back to the breath anytime you find the mind wandering. Feeling rooted to the present through the rise and fall of the abdomen. The breath goes in and out. Taking the final few moments here. And taking a breath in and letting it go. And preparing yourself to move and to shift yourself into your final position, drawing the knees down towards you. And very slowly rolling yourself over onto your side. And your final position this evening for Shavasana is either to take the side lying Shavasana, if you took that at the start, so coming onto one of the sides, bringing support between your knees, supporting the head, and covering yourself with a blanket, or coming onto Shavasana on your back, supporting under the knees to relax the lower back. Again, covering yourself with a blanket and making sure you're going to be warm. So, and then the final bit will be 10 or 15 minutes of complete stillness. And so just keeping the body temperature up so that you can feel comfortable. And if you do have an eye pillow, this is a really lovely one to use during this particular bit. So we're going to be doing some yoga nidra. Yoga nidra is really lovely for this time of year because it allows us a chance to rest very deeply. So half an hour's yoga nidra is supposed to be equivalent to a 2-hour sleep. And so if you don't have time, which we don't all have time to take 2-hour naps, then yoga nidra can be a really nice way just to slow down and to take that rest that we need. So preparing for yoga nidra, lying on your back or on your side in Shavasana, adjusting everything, your body, your position, your clothes, so that you feel completely comfortable. And during yoga nidra, you should try to limit your physical movements as much as you can. If you haven't done so already, closing your eyes and keeping them closed until I tell you to open them. Taking a deep breath. And as you exhale, allowing yourself to feel supported beneath you and surrendering yourself completely to the floor. Allowing the body to become heavy and feeling yourself surrender completely to the floor. In the practice which follows, we're going to develop the feeling of relaxation in the body. It's not necessary to make any particular movements or deliberately relax your body, but just develop the feeling of relaxation in the body. It's like the feeling you have just before sleep. When relaxation comes, and relaxation's deep, sleep does come, but trying to keep yourself awake if you can. And that if you do drift off, just joining us back where we are. And the only important thing is just to follow my voice. And you might find that at times you listen to what I'm saying, and at other times it's just background noise. And that's fine. And now bringing about a feeling of inner relaxation in the whole body. Concentrating on the body and becoming aware of the importance of complete stillness. Developing your awareness of the body from the top of the head to the tips of the toes. Complete stillness and complete awareness of the whole body. And continuing your awareness of the whole body. The whole body. The whole body. And now it's time for you to make your sankalpa, your affirmation or your positive mental statement. And it will be something very simple, a short and positive statement in simple language like, I make space for myself to rest. And whatever you decide your sankalpa is, saying it 3 times in your mind with awareness, feeling and emphasis. We'll now begin our rotation of consciousness and awareness by taking a trip through the different parts of the body. As quickly as possible, moving your awareness to go from part to part, repeating the part in your mind and at the same time becoming aware of that part of the body. Becoming aware of the right hand thumb, second finger, third finger, fourth finger, fifth finger, palm of the hand, becoming aware of your palm, back of the hand, the wrist, the lower arm, the elbow, the upper arm, the shoulder, the armpit, the right waist, the right hip, the right thigh, the kneecap, the calf muscle, the ankle, the heel, the sole of the right foot, the top of the foot, the big toe, second toe, third toe, fourth toe, fifth toe. And becoming aware of the left hand thumb, second finger, third finger, fourth finger, fifth finger, palm of the hand, back of the hand, the wrist, the lower arm, the elbow, the upper arm, the shoulder, the armpit, the left waist, the left hip, the left thigh, the kneecap, the calf muscle, the ankle, the heel, the sole of the left foot, the top of the foot, the big toe, second toe, third toe, fourth toe, fifth toe. Moving your awareness to the back, becoming aware of the right shoulder blade, the left shoulder blade, the right buttock, the left buttock, the spine, the whole back together. Now going to the top of the head, the forehead, both sides of the head, the right eyebrow, the left eyebrow, the space between the eyebrows, the right eyelid, the left eyelid, the right eye, the left eye, the right ear, the left ear, the right cheek, the left cheek, the nose, the tip of the nose, the upper lip, the lower lip, the chin, the throat, the right chest, the left chest, the middle of the chest, the abdomen, the whole of the right leg, the whole of the left leg, both legs together, the whole of the right arm, the whole of the left arm, both arms together, the whole of the back, buttocks, spine, shoulder blades, the whole of the front, abdomen, chest, the whole of the back and front together, the whole of the head, the whole body together, the whole body together, the whole body together, the whole body on the floor, becoming aware of your body lying on the floor. Your body is lying on the floor. Seeing your body lying perfectly still on the floor in your room. And bringing your attention back to your breath. Feeling the flow of the breath in and out of your lungs. Not trying to change the rhythm. The breathing is natural. Maintaining awareness of your breath. Complete awareness of your breath. Now concentrating your awareness on the movement of your abdomen. Concentrating on your abdomen. Your abdomen is rising and falling slightly with every breath, with each and every breath extending and contracting. Now starting to count your breaths backwards from 27 to 1, like this. 27 inhaling. 27 exhaling. 26 inhaling. 26 exhaling. Saying the words and numbers mentally to yourself as you count your breaths. If you lose count, just coming back to 27. The numbers don't matter. So stopping your counting now, leaving your breathing. And we're now coming to visualization. So I'll name a number of different things and you should try to develop a vision of them on all levels. feeling, awareness, emotion, imagination as best you can. Snow falling from the sky. Snow falling from the sky. Snow falling from the sky. A crisply frozen field. A crisply frozen field. A crisply frozen field. Pale winter sun. Pale winter sun. Pale winter sun. A crackling fire. A crackling fire. A crackling fire. A warm woolen rug. A warm woolen rug. A warm woolen rug. And now repeating your sankalpa, repeating the same affirmation you made at the beginning of the practice. Don't change it. Repeating your affirmation 3 times with full awareness and feeling in your mind. Now letting go of all your efforts, drawing your mind outside and becoming aware of your breathing, becoming aware of the natural breath, becoming aware again of the whole body and your breathing. Your body is lying totally relaxed on the floor. And you're breathing quietly and slowly. Developing awareness of your body from the top of the head to the tips of the toes. Becoming aware of the floor and the position of your body lying on the floor. Visualizing your room around you. Becoming aware of your surroundings. Lying quietly, keeping the eyes closed. And then starting to move your body. And beginning to stretch yourself. Wiggling fingers and toes. And perhaps raising the arms up above the head. And stretching from the fingertips down to your toes. And when you're ready, gently rolling over onto your side. Making yourself a very smooth transition from your stillness back into your own space. Taking your time and not rushing the transition. And the practice of yoga nidra is over. So if you wish to stay where you are and enjoy some more time to rest, feel free to do so. But otherwise, I will bid you a good night and say thank you for joining me. And have a lovely winter.